I get such a thrill myself out of being able to share with all of you inspiring, uplifting, and encouraging conversations. And we're going to have one of those today here on The Big Impact. Our guest is Steve Gamlin, and it's not every day you get to come in under the heading of Motivational Firewood, so I cannot wait to learn what exactly that means as we welcome in speaker, author, and vision boarder, Steve Gamlin from the New Hampshire area. I don't know, is the accent really thick? Is it New Hampshire?
It depends on where you are in New England. Yeah, we could be New Hampshire, but back in my radio years, I got the accent beaten out of me, so I can be somewhat neutral unless I get tired, which I used to say tired. But there's still a hint of it here and there, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot to unpack in the world of motivational firewood. Let me start with that. What does that mean? It's a very creative title for what you do.
Thank you. Yeah, it actually started, I've been speaking now for about 17 years. And in the first year, I attended my first National Speakers Association. We had a meeting in New England, just south of Boston. And I walked in, and of course, I had the blue name badge of, "Hi, I'm brand new and probably don't have a clue." And a gentleman who was one of the veteran members came over, he saw my tag, he goes, "Hey, Steve, first time here. What do you do?" I said, "I'm going to be a motivational speaker." And he said, "Well, okay, that's what a lot of us do. What sets you apart?" I said, "I want to help people." He said, "Well, you're not helping yourself right now. You're not setting yourself apart. We all want to help people, Steve." And he was so gracious with his time and so generous and kid gloved me for about 5 minutes. And I finally just said, "Look, if people are coming to hear me speak, they've got a spark of something in their heart, something in their lives they want to improve. And they hope that I can deliver it to them. So if I share a story, a lesson, a call to action, something that gets them to move forward," I said, "they get a spark, and it's kind of like I'm giving them motivational firewood." And Don said, "I have one more question. Do you know anything about trademarks?" And I said, "Not a clue." He said, "I love that concept. I think you're onto something. It's different and it's unique and it's cool and it's fun." He said, "I would definitely pursue that." And $1,100 later, I've owned the trademark of Motivational Firewood ever since.
How cool is it, though, that even in that early stage all those years ago, that you had someone come along who was willing to kind of give you some advice when, I guess, in some respects, they could have viewed you as competition instead. It's kind of rare to find somebody who's willing to say, "Hey, man, I see something here. Let's work on it."
Yeah, I've been very, very blessed throughout my life. Some of the most formative and changing moments came from somebody asking me a simple question or just taking part in a conversation, even if they were competition, because he definitely could have seen himself that way and said, "Well, hey, enjoy the meeting and, have a donut," and just walked
Mhm.
on. But he didn't. And I still talk about it today. And I still, every once in a while, I'll reach out to him and I say, yeah, I'm still using that motivational firewood thing. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm always interested in learning the backstory of someone who has set out to become a speaker full time. Now, obviously, during a pandemic, that's a rough gig, and you have to be extra creative in order to still deliver to audiences because you'll have to master the virtual approach to all of this for a while. But what got you into it? You said you mentioned a radio background. At some point, did you get tired of sitting behind a microphone and decide I want live audiences in front of me?
Actually, most of my 10 years on the radio from 92 to '02, I was scared to be on the microphone. I was a rock radio morning show producer for most of my 10 years. So I was part of a show, but I was never the one that wanted to be out front. I just didn't have a lot of self-confidence. People now say, "Oh, I love your voice. It's a radio voice." I said, "Yeah, it's a dang shame I didn't have it when I was actually on the radio." At the end of my 10 years, I was just fried because I worked 15 years worth of hours. What I loved most about the radio was the impact that I would hear it had on people. They would come see us even months later after something we had done, and they would say, "Hey, you really changed my life that day. You made me laugh for the first time in a long time." And I wanted to capture that in such a way to empower other people, to teach other people, to make people laugh, because what I do is a blend of positivity and humor. And one afternoon in August of 2003, at the lowest point of my life, quit my radio career without a full-time job, went through a divorce, and was pretty that close to bankruptcy. I had $3 in my pocket on a Friday afternoon in August of '03 on a humid day here in New Hampshire. And I just went to take it out on a bucket of golf balls at a driving range. And about 10 swings in, a thunderstorm came ripping through. Now, mind you, I was way at the far end of the property, so I could do the least amount of damage because I'm a horrible golfer. I was underneath some metal power line towers and cables in a thunderstorm, barefoot in the wet grass. It just kept hitting and hitting and hitting to just get out all the frustrations. And I finished my bucket of golf balls, and I went to leave, and there were 2 full buckets of golf balls, 2 tee boxes away from a couple guys that ran away from the storm. And I looked around, they're gone. So I said, oh, thank you. 2 more buckets of golf balls. And at the end of an hour, I couldn't even lift my arms. And I got to my car. And when I opened the door, the rain stopped and the sun came out. And I just started laughing at how ridiculous it all was. And the next day, I was talking with a then brand new life coach. And he said, so how was your week? I said, yeah, put your pen down and listen to this. And I retold the story of being in the wet grass under power lines in a thunderstorm, hitting golf balls. And he was laughing so hard. He said, I got 2 questions. Are you this open and honest about your life with everybody? And I said, yeah, usually in a really self-deprecating way, but yeah, if it teaches a lesson, sure. And then he asked, you ever thought of being a motivational speaker or a stand-up comedian? I think you would love both. And I'd actually wanted to do both for years, but never had the guts or the knowledge of even how to pursue it.
Right.
And on his desk.
By the way, with you saying that you never had the knowledge or the action plan, I know that that's now part of something that you help others formulate, right? It's not just the idea, it's how to get from A to Z. I remember just a couple of weeks ago, my nephew was in my home, and we were watching Shark Tank. And the presentation being made by the inventor was not a terribly complicated one, but he looked at me and he said something that I agreed with fully. He said, you know, I've had lots of cool ideas over the years, but I don't even know how you would begin to make the plastic thing and reshape it and get the trademarks and all. He said, for those people, even if they don't get an offer on the show, the fact that they had an idea and they figured out, whether they had to go to China to make it or whatever they had to do, they put a plan in place and they actually followed through on it. He said, that's a really kind of a cool thing. And I'm amazed, Steve, at how often we will come across people who do have really good ideas, but because the plan is so complicated to put together, or at least it seems overwhelming, they don't do anything with it. You're probably seeing that quite often.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've heard the phrase over and over again and I'm paraphrasing it because I don't remember exactly. The richest place in the world is the graveyard, because so many great ideas are buried there with the people who had them because they didn't know how to pursue the next step. And it can be overwhelming. And I remember sitting down watching Shark Tank with people who said, oh, I had that idea 20 years ago.
Right. Everybody did, right?
And yeah, exactly. And you give them the side eye, you go, why didn't you do anything with it? Oh, I didn't know what to do. Like, you couldn't reach out to someone to just bounce it off somebody, maybe somebody in that field who might already have all the tooling and all the marketing and everything in place, who's just waiting for that great idea. Nah. Like, well, then maybe you shouldn't brag that you had that idea 20 years ago, because this person actually did something with it, because action is huge.
I remember just a couple of seasons ago, in our conversation, I promise we'll veer away from Shark Tank, but as you're talking about ideas and goals and vision and action plans, I remember a couple of years ago seeing a very humble couple from a rural part of America, and they had created a very simple product that allowed you to slide it into your, like the floorboard of your truck, so you could step up and reach the top of your truck. The wife was quite short, and so it came out of necessity for her to put things on the top of the truck. I mean, it was like as complicated as a horseshoe, essentially, is what it was, but it had enough width that you could step on it. And at the end of that conversation, as they through tears, they talked about how hard they had worked to put this really simple idea together. And they were asking for whatever they were asking. And one of the sharks, I believe it was Damon, said, you came here looking for a partner of, 15% at whatever the dollars were. He said, I'd like to make you an offer today. I'm going to offer you $3 million for 100% of your company. And on the spot, they sold their company and they had $3 million as they walked away. And I obviously, I still remember that a couple of years later, because those people who are willing to take a bit of a risk to put in the hard work. Ideas are easy. Executing them is difficult. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes labor. And to see it work is so rewarding. So that's a long-winded way of me asking you, how long did it take you before you kind of hit your stride in your new career path of both entertaining and motivating?
So far, 17 years.
You're still going.
Still going. Always,
Yeah.
always creating. And I love what you said about ideas, because ideas are easy. I mean, we react and respond to the world in such a way every single day that a new idea can come out. The vision board work that I do with people, it came out of my frustration with The Secret, which is what actually clued me into the law of attraction and gave a good broad brush of it, but didn't stress enough about the action that goes along with it and understanding why you want stuff. So I created half my platform in response to a frustration over something that everybody else seemed to be glorifying. Like, this is the best. Like, this is incomplete. Here's the next phase to it. So I'm still creating new programs, messages, stories on a regular basis. When did I start getting paid? Was a couple of years in. I started to get paid and people started to see the value. And as the testimonials stacked up, one would see a testimonial and hire me for them. They'd provide one that would lead to something else. So that part of it has been growing steadily, but I'm still in search of the perfect life-changing story.
And
I'm
even
still
if
trying
you
to create
had
that.
arrived at whatever perfect is supposed to be, then a pandemic would have come along and thrown a massive wrench into the works, forcing everyone, yourself, myself included, to revisit what we thought we had as our model. And I think about that, Steve, because we're addressing an audience from all walks of life. I don't know what people are doing for a living, whether they're retired, whether they're just getting started. In the podcast world and radio world, you never know who's listening. But I have to think that there's at least a couple of people out there who are looking for an action plan, who are looking for a way to put it all together. And we're going to continue the conversation along those lines here in a moment on The Big Impact. Our guest on The Big Impact is Steve Gamlin. Motivationalfirewood.com is his website. And Steve, I've been, ever since I first connected with you, I was wondering what in the world this vision board world is. Now, for those who are listening, but also watching our video, because we offer the videos of our conversations on bigimpactradio.com, you have right over your shoulder the word Vision Board Master. So let's take a few minutes and dig into what vision boarding is and what it does for idea creators.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I first was exposed to vision boards by about a 3-minute segment in my DVD copy of The Secret. About 2/3 of the way through, a guy named John Assaraf was just telling this story about how he used to put his vision boards together. He would think of the goals he wanted, he'd find a picture, slap it on a board, and he started to notice that it increased the odds that he could actually achieve something. And I was so fascinated by that, but it was only about a 3-minute conversation. So I started to dig into the power of visualization and connecting your senses and your intentions and understanding why you want what you want, and really dialing it in to be so specific that you're not just wandering all over the map. You know where you are now. And when you determine what you want in all the different areas of your life, your physical health, your emotional well-being, your finances, your career, your relationships, your connection with the real world, your spirituality, ethics, morals, and integrity, when you put all of those together and start to figure out what you want your life to look like, feel like, sound like, even smell like, what you're really doing is making yourself aware of the opportunities out there to pursue it. Now, somebody may say, "Oh, Steve, I want a new car this year." Okay, what manufacturer do you like the best? What model do you want? Do you want a brand new one, a used one? What color is it? What's the interior, cloth or leather? What color is that? What do you want the car for? Is it for practicality or sport, speed? What do you want? To really start to dial it in, to get that target on your horizon a lot better and save you a lot of time of wandering around. Because if we're wishy-washy with goals, the minute something pops up and interrupts it, if we're not really committed or knowing exactly why we want it, it's real easy for us to just say, well, I guess that wasn't the one. I guess that wasn't meant to be. What do people do every year for resolutions? I want to be happier, healthier, and I want more money. They don't define it any more than that. So at the end of the year, when they're cleaning their house between Christmas and New Year's, they see that folded piece of paper under the lamp, keeping it from rocking. And it's got salsa stains and the pizza guy's number. And they open it up and they go, oh, yeah, resolutions.
I didn't do any of
And
these things.
yeah. And what do? They go, I'll change
Yeah.
the year. And they just write next year
Well,
on it.
in many ways, Steve, it reminds me of the person who does have this resolution to get in shape. So they join the gym. They're going to pay their 40, 50, 80 bucks a month, whatever it happens to be, wherever you live. And they enter the first time, maybe ever, and have no clue where to go. They have no idea what sort of a pattern or a regimen to put together, how you would tackle this goal. And so I think that the traffic patterns in a non-pandemic era, I think the traffic patterns in fitness centers tell us a lot about how the lack of guidance can really just bring your dreams to a halt. You will see this. You'll see this every January. The gyms are packed. Every February, the gyms are slightly less packed. Every April, the gyms are back to normal. And that's what happens, right? The weather gets nicer outside if you live in the Midwest like I do, or on the Far East Coast like you do, and you start to think of, I'm going to do my exercise outside. And then you devolve right back into the binge watching world, and the cycle continues the following December. I'm going to get myself in shape. So this vision boarding strategy that has been a part of your life, in a practical sense, what does it look like? What does it feel like? And how can someone who's listening right now really dig into it to take full advantage of the benefits?
Yeah, usually what I start, especially when people are new to it and don't quite understand what all goes into it, is go to an office supply store like a Staples or an Office Max or something like that. Get a piece of foam board. It's about 11 inches by 17 inches. It's a manageable size. It won't freak you out. Start to think of all the areas of your life that I mentioned earlier: your career, your physical health, emotional well-being, your relationships, your connection to the real world, and all of these other things. Start to think of where you are right now. And the first part of it is what most people never do. They don't rate it or think of where they are right now, because you're giving yourself a starting point, just like a GPS. You need to know where you are right now to be able to get where you want to go. So even say a year into the future, don't do the whole in 20 years, I want this, because most people won't commit to it. Think of a year from now, how you would like each part of your life to look 12 months from now. If you're into numbers, rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. If you're at a 3 now, maybe you try for a 6 by the end of the year, which is a great improvement. And then start to think and define what would those things each look like, feel like, sound like, smell like in some cases. And then start to figure out why you want it, and not just because right now stinks. Emotionally connect yourself with a reason. When we were kids, my sister got my dad to quit smoking because she said one day after school, in tears, "Daddy, some people came to school today and said smoking will kill you, and I want you to walk me down the aisle someday, and
Oh,
I'll be sad if you die." My dad quit cold turkey that week. Now, he had tried to
yeah,
quit 20 times prior.
sure.
Suddenly, he got such a compelling why that he took the action. And if we don't give ourselves that why, we can just veer off simply. So figure out where you are now, and then start to dial in, say, a year from now, and then figure out what it would look like, and then find or create the pictures. Create a mantra for yourself or hashtag, something that's going to keep you going, and then keep these pictures where you can see them daily. It's not set it and forget it. We're not talking a roasted chicken on a Saturday morning infomercial. You got to be in touch with it every day. And if you take one little action towards one picture in one part of your board every day, you're going to see great potential for improvement over the course of a year.
That's such good advice. And at the same time, I'm realizing that we're in a culture, especially in a pandemic culture, which hopefully is winding down, but we're still there as we speak, where we have become really accustomed to instant results other than the pandemic going away. So now I'm hungry. Well, yeah, Uber Eats is going to be here in 30 minutes. I don't have to do anything except grab my phone, and then maybe I'll answer the door. I don't know. Maybe I'll just leave it on the porch, right?
Yep.
And on we go. I want to watch. I don't want to watch one episode. I'm going to watch all 9 of them. I just don't need to sleep tonight. And so it's instant gratification. All of these things happen so quickly. And yet, my belief is that the biggest dreams, the most worthy goals, the aspirations that really matter They're going to take time to develop, and you can't rush. They're not going to happen overnight any more than the losing of the 30 pounds would happen without effort. And that's the other side of this struggle, is that we quite often have a desire to achieve something noticeable or admirable, but we'd kind of like to just achieve it because we thought of it. I just, hey, I thought of a great idea, so I should just have it. That's the participation trophy world that we live in. Just because I showed up means that I should be recognized for my efforts. It's really not how it works.
Yeah, it's like the people that want to get in shape, and like you said, they go to the gym, and it runs the gamut really from they're clueless and they won't ask for help because they feel it's embarrassing or they're going to be weak or seen, whatever. They would rather just hide. Or you get the people that show up on the first day at the gym, like January 3rd, and they try to bench press a Volkswagen. They think they get in shape all at once. Well, then what happens? The next day they can't walk. Well, they don't want to go to the gym. And a couple of days later, well, it's still kind of stiff. It's still a little bit sore. And all of a sudden they equate the gym with pain and they don't go anymore. When instead it's incremental, and you have to be consistent with your efforts, baby efforts. Too many people in my industry say, you got to take massive change all at once. Well, guess what? Most people won't do that. I'm sorry, Mr. Super Achiever. Maybe you did. It doesn't work for me. I've been slow and steady wins the race my entire career, because I believe consistency plus momentum equals confidence. And that was my biggest challenge back in the day. Self-confidence to keep going and growing, even with the baby steps. And even if I look foolish, I've screwed up several times on stage where I took the longest dramatic pause you've ever heard because I had no idea what the heck I was supposed to say next. And that happened a couple times.
He's such a deep thinker. And you're like, I just forgot everything I was supposed to say. I've been there, man. I feel your pain. I feel your pain. Well, Steve, the other part is on this journey. And again, as we talk with Steve Gamlin from motivationalfirewood.com, we realize that if we have the plan, if we have the dream, and if we're willing to put together a plan, whether it's using the vision board approach or bringing in some guidance from somebody else, if we're taking those steps, we also have to be realistic in understanding that at some time in the journey, it may not go exactly according to plan. You may have some stop signs, some speed bumps. You may have a complete derailing of the train for whatever reason it happened. Whether it's people aren't buying into what you're selling, or maybe it's you didn't have the right plan. It wasn't properly put together. And we have this turning point. Am I done? Am I giving up on it? I tried it, I'm out. And then you'll never know whether or not that idea had the potential to be the game changer that you dreamed it would be. I'd like to think that people are dreaming fairly sizable dreams and not just little inconsequential thoughts that, take it or leave it. Because if you can take it or leave it, you're probably going to leave it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, you hit it right on the head. We never know. And some people do get to that one thing that could just be a Jersey barrier that you could climb over or walk around, and they give up. And they think, well, I guess it just wasn't, it's the classic. I guess it wasn't meant to be. No, you just didn't know why you wanted it enough. You didn't believe in yourself enough. You didn't surround yourself with the right people. You didn't do enough research. You didn't apply yourself. You didn't set yourself apart. There's a million reasons why things don't fail. But I think what we have to do is going back to understanding why we want what we want, and understanding that barriers are going to come up and we're going to make mistakes. Some of my best stage stories are from the stupidest things I ever did in my life and in my career. And people, those are the ones my clients remember the most and ask for the most. 2020, perfect example. A gigantic clump of trees called COVID fell in front of a lot of us. Now, I own two companies, speaking 17 years, a DJ and MC company for 27 years. That one got vaporized because all events were gone. And you can't do weddings virtually, not for what I do. So that one's gone. And then, of course, I can't get on a plane and go speak somewhere. So my team and I circled our wagons and we said, okay, what can we still do? We can still get on a webcam. All right, we've got the Vision Board Mastery Audio program, all 10 modules. Let's put it online and give people access to it. So wherever they are, they can have access to it. They can go through it. We do group coaching over Zoom. None of that existed prior to COVID. I could have just shut it down, and I know some speakers who have, who said, I'm just going to wait it out. Well, latest estimates I heard are 3 to 5 years. I can't wait that long.
Hmm.
So we came up against this barrier called COVID. Can't get on a plane, can't go deliver a speech somewhere, can't be in a big crowd. So we just gathered together, banged around ideas, tossed it off the wall a different way, and came up with this new way to deliver what I do. And it's the greatest innovation we've ever created for my company, because now I'm working with companies who have people working from home. I can't just go because they're not there, but they can access my program now. And I'm doing virtual keynotes, and I'm doing pre-recorded videos for people instead of being there live. It takes more time than it would to get on a plane and fly somewhere, but it's still something. And it's taught me better ways, more effective ways to do my business and not have to leave home, which I really don't like to do. I like my recording studio. I love our home. My wife works right upstairs from me. So it wouldn't have happened without the barrier, without that little speed bump, which is still happening. So we're still innovating. So that's what I hope more people remember with their goals, hopes, dreams, and desired outcomes is when the trees fall across, you can climb over them, you can dig under them, or if you go to the right or the left, just walk around. And you might just find some really cool, interesting people when you get to the ends and find a new way to whatever the top of your mountain looks like.
Our guest here on The Big Impact is Steve Gamlin from motivationalfirewood.com, and we're exploring your ideas, your dreams. We're exploring the way to put together a plan to support them and help make them possible. And Steve, as we were talking before the break about some of the things that you've learned during pandemic that will, I believe, forever help your business side of your world. I've been able to consult with a number of ministries, churches, and faith-based organizations during all of this, what I call a forced sabbatical, where you got to slow down a little bit and rethink some things. And that's what sabbatical sort of is supposed to be: refresh, renew, and rethink some things. And I don't anticipate, even after stadiums are filled again, I think that what we're learning about the communication process in this era is going to benefit everybody who's creative for a very long time. You mentioned you're not going to go give an address live to a room full of people for a while, but when that opportunity arises again, you can do both that and offer it to people virtually, right? For churches who have converted their services over to online presentation, they'll gather again and they'll continue to offer these things that they didn't in many cases do before. So I love how the example you gave of when the trees fall in front of you, you have some options here. One of them is to stand there completely blocked by the trees and just have your head in your hands and go, I cannot believe these trees are in my way. I cannot go anywhere until somebody else comes and moves these trees. Or you can just walk around them. I mean, it's literally the choice that we have. And it's interesting because on your website at motivationalfirewood.com, you ask this question: are you tired of following gurus whose super secret formulas lead to emptiness of wallet and soul? I love that question because there are so many potential scams out there that promise the world if you'll just cough up the dough. And what you and I've discussed in the last, 35, 45 minutes didn't cost anybody a penny. And it's going to make a bigger difference in your life than what you're going to get if you spend $5,000 to go sit in a Tony Robbins shout in your face fest for 3 days. I mean, I know he's helped a lot of people, but I'm sorry, the fiscal side of it just makes me shiver with what's happening. So where can people now dig further into the vision boarding concepts and to what you're teaching at motivationalfirewood.com? What sort of resources are out there that don't break the bank?
Yeah, I've got the actually for absolutely free. There's a 32-minute webinar there for people who may not understand what visualization is all about or how to engage the law of attraction, in a non-guru way. Every time I say guru, I do the double quotes, gesturing, and I roll my eyes. So there's a free webinar there. And we also have the Motivational Firewood weekly program, which is group coaching every Monday night for 86 weeks now at the time of this broadcast. Myself and my community get together. They ask questions. I coach. We kick around ideas. We brainstorm. I share my biggest lessons from the previous week. That's $10 a month, $9.95 a month for people with access to all the archives. So if they don't feel like sleeping, they can binge those. I've got several of my books available on the products page. And of course, the Vision Board Mastery Program, all 10 audio modules, a whopping $97.
Yeah.
We've just tried to keep it affordable for everybody because I want people who are where I was at to be able to have access to some knowledge without just saying it's this $5,000 mega platinum fog machine, strobe light, yelling, screaming in your face, which I refuse to
Right.
do.
And calling you names, by the way.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've seen the videos, and I was a Tony fan early on, got a lot of value, but I just don't like where his brand has gone. And somebody asked me, they said, if Tony asked you to be on stage with him, would you go? I said, yeah, I'll follow him. I don't care. But on my way out the stage, okay, guys, turn off the spotlight, turn off the fog, turn off the thundering music, turn off all that stuff. I'm gonna sit on the front of the stage, dangle my legs up, and have an intimate conversation with 5,000 people and ask
Well,
why they're there.
I'm glad you said that because there is so much emotion-based hype, self-help, whatever that's all kind of in a similar category where in the moment you feel like nothing can stop you. When you leave the moment, everything can stop you. It feels because you didn't really build a foundation in there. I'm curious, you talk about the weekly gatherings that you have with your group. What kind of things are people struggling with? What are they asking about? What are they dealing with right now, for instance? Because I'm sure a number of our audience members are in a similar position with either their dreams or just their concerns about day-to-day life.
Yeah, the biggest one right now is overwhelm, especially where we're still kind of in the early months of a new year. We're still in a pandemic. We're still dealing with all of that. The overwhelm of whatever goals or wherever they may want to be at the end of this year, where do I start? I had somebody literally tell me last week on a corporate conference call, I feel like the biggest failure in the world because I made my board and I'm afraid to even take the first step. So that was one of the things I addressed recently. And I said, okay, here in New Hampshire, we have 48 mountains that are 4,000 feet high or more. I don't know if it's called the Great 48 or the 48 4,000s, whatever. When people achieve them all, they get a patch, a ribbon, a certificate. They get this really great accolade. But imagine on their very first one, staring at the map and seeing 48 mountains and wondering, which one do I climb first? And I talked to somebody who is a climber and a hiker and has been to base camp on Everest. And she said, you just pick one and start climbing. So if you're overwhelmed by all your goals, just pick one. If you're looking at your vision board, it's a freak out because of so many goals. Find a picture frame, 4x6. Take a picture of one picture from your vision board. Flip the board face down for a while. Start there. So if you're overwhelmed, pick one thing because you can't do 28 things effectively all at once.
Well,
I'm glad you
said that about the visual that the vision board provides. And for those who are wondering what the thing even looks like, you can see some examples on the website at motivationalfirewood.com. This vision board concept is not just an ethereal mental exercise. It's actually a physical manifestation of your dreams that has steps laid out. And as you mentioned, the person was overwhelmed, not knowing what step to take first. Like you said, you take one. So you have the dream of reconnecting with someone in your family that you haven't talked to in 20 years, and you're scared like crazy about how it might go. And you have laid out this plan so that by Christmas, you're going to have them in your home. You're going to be together for Christmas. Okay, I'm just hypothetically throwing out an idea here. And Steve, if I'm following you accurately, and you can certainly tell me if I'm not, maybe the first step is you send them a card. It just says, hope you're doing well. Love to talk with you sometime. Let's grab one. Or maybe that's it. Maybe that's step one, right? I mean, we're taking baby steps here to build towards the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that's the perfect way to do it because, a card, a letter, a note, a postcard. I love sending postcards. I find the weirdest ones that I think people will enjoy. And if it's been 20 years and maybe there was some bad blood down there, you just write a little note saying, wow, it's really been a long time. I miss you. I would love to connect if you're okay. Throw that first opportunity out there. If it gets sent back to you, it says return to sender with a skull and crossbones on it. Well, then guess what? You get 2 plates of ham at Christmas this year. The response has been acknowledged. But at least to make that effort,
Yeah.
because it's the perfect example that you just gave. We let so much time go by and we let things fester. And then a lot of times we make it worse in our own heads than it may
Yeah.
really be.
Or
So
we
that's
get
a
to the
great one.
funeral of somebody in the family, and that's when you first see each other, and you say something like, it's a shame that we wait until moments like this to get together, and then when the day is done, you never talk again. So
Yeah.
there are opportunities that we have. One more example before we close. Let's talk about the vision board steps for somebody who wants to lose a lot of weight. They want to get in better shape. The doctor has said your heart's not in great condition. You need to get down 30 pounds. And you leave the doctor's office thinking, I better be 30 pounds down tomorrow. I'm going to step on that scale every time I walk past it, as opposed to an actual plan where instead of being overwhelmed, maybe today you just throw out all the chips that are in the cupboard and you don't buy anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe tomorrow you go for a walk that's 5 minutes longer than the one you might normally take, right? We're not training in this instance, in this example. We're not becoming Mr. or Miss Olympia. We're simply trying to take steps. And Steve, I have to think that when we start to think of these endeavors along the lines of one bite at a time, it becomes much more feasible to think that we're going to scale the mountain.
Yeah. And I actually did exactly what you just talked about 12 years ago. My doctor told me, I'm going to put you on this medication if you don't lose 20 pounds and you have to drop your cholesterol way down, because mine was almost a perfect bowling score. It was right up there.
Hmm.
And he said, it's not cute anymore. And I'm going to medicate you. And I don't like to take medication. So I said, well, how long do I have? He said, 3 months. And it turned out the 3 months was at Christmas. It ended. I went to the gym each day, could do 3 minutes on the elliptical and then lift some weights. Then I got up to 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Then I could do 40 minutes, but it took time. I also went and researched. I found a nutritionist and I said, look, tell me the foods that are the best for losing weight, for dropping cholesterol. Started to eat those. Couldn't spell all the names, but I started to eat them. And I went back to his office the week of Christmas. He says, congratulations, no medication. You lost 19 pounds and you dropped the bad cholesterol 75 points. Keep going. He says, was it easy? I said, no, there were days I was giving you the finger in the parking lot when I did not want to be there. And he started laughing like that. And I equate it to like an old wooden roller coaster. You have to go click, 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 click to get over the top. You can't hack it. You can't cheat it. There's no super secret formula. You just put in the work every day, and it doesn't take a ton to create the momentum.
And I believe that once you get past the feelings of this is all against me, I'm on this journey and I'm so stinking hungry, I'm mad at the world. Once you get past the feelings that this is somehow harming me, and you start to embrace the progress that you're making, you can't go a day without taking baby steps, or then you feel miserable. It actually becomes a part of your lifestyle, whether it's in this context of weight loss or whatever other goal it is you're chasing. Once you get into the rhythm of it, it's more jarring to miss a day than it is to actually take the step. It's really, really powerful stuff on that journey.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like the Monday night calls that I have. I mean, when I first started, people said, oh, most of these only last 3 episodes, 5 episodes, and they're gone. Well, we just did episode 86 recently. We're almost at 100. And my mentor, my business guy, told me, he goes, what episode you at? This is when I hit 40. He goes, okay, now I can tell you this. Most people fail by number 3 or number 5.
Yeah.
Good job. Keep going.
Yeah.
I don't dare skip a week.
Right.
I've been writing articles for a magazine called Success Profiles Magazine. I just submitted article 41 in a row. I don't dare skip a month. I'm on a radio station in England called Inspire Radio. I'm the only American voice with an actual show. We've done 62 weeks in a row so far. I don't dare skip a week.
Yeah.
Because the momentum is so great and so rewarding. Even if I turn on my microphone and say, I have no idea what I'm going to do this week, and just keep showing up in ideas, in people, and topics, and questions. They show up and we
Well,
deliver.
folks, you can dig in further to the world of Steve Gamlin at motivationalfirewood.com. I find the whole thing very encouraging. I hope you did as well. And on that website, you'll find his writings on his blog, more information about the webinars, some freebies, and the ability to contact Steve and say, we'd like you to come and speak to us when people can come and speak to people again. So great to meet you. Thank you for your time and for the insight today. It's important stuff.
Oh my gosh, thank you very much. It's been a joy and an honor, and it was effortless. And I mean that in the best way possible to be here with you. So thank you very, very much.